Most of us grew up believing that intelligence is something you're either born with or you're not. Some kids are just smart and some kids struggle. But intelligence isn't fixed. It develops over time. And as a parent, you have more influence over it than you've ever been told. Japanese parents have known this for generations, and they have a simple process for doing exactly that. One that's been quietly shaping some of the most capable children in the world. It's called Hansei. Hansei roughly translates to self-reflection, but it's not the kind of reflection that most of us are used to. In Western cultures, when a child makes a mistake, our instinct is to comfort them and say it's okay or don't worry about it, or we jump straight in and fix it for them. In Japan, it's handled completely differently. Kids aren't shielded from mistakes, they're guided through them. Because the belief at the heart of Hansei is simple. Making a mistake isn't the problem, not learning from it is. So when something goes wrong, instead of brushing past it or fixing it, a Japanese parent will stop and step their child through the Hansei process. And in a moment, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that at home. But before I do, it's important to understand why this makes such a difference to your child's intelligence, because once you see it, you won't want to skip it. And it all comes down to something that researchers call a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset is simply the belief that your abilities aren't fixed, that intelligence isn't a number that you're born with that stays the same. It's something that grows the more you use it. The more your child struggles, reflects, and tries again, the more capable their brain actually becomes. And this is what Hansei builds. Every time your child works through a mistake rather than fixing it for them, their brain builds the problem-solving abilities, the persistence, and the resilience that shows up as intelligence over time. So, how do you actually bring this into your day-to-day life with your little one? Well, it all starts with those small, frustrating moments that are already happening in your home every single day. For example, your toddler's block tower keeps falling down, or they can't get their shoes on the right feet, or your older child keeps getting the same maths problem wrong. When you see these moments, the first thing you need to do is actually nothing. Now, this is harder than it sounds because when your child is struggling, everything in you wants to step in. But when you jump in and fix every mistake, like zip up their coat or solve the maths problem before they've actually had a real chance to try, you send a message that you don't intend. And that message is, this was too hard for you, so I did it. And when that happens over and over, they start to learn that when things get hard, the right move is to stop and wait for you to solve it. But when you give them some time, even just 30 seconds, something different can happen. They might actually solve it for themselves. And when they do, their confidence and problem-solving skills grow. Not because you told them that they could do it, but because they proved it to themselves. And that feeling is incredibly motivating. It makes them want to try again the next time. And that, repeated over and over, is exactly how a growth mindset gets built. But sometimes, no matter how much time you give them, they just can't get there. And they look at you and say, I can't do it. Now, when that happens, I want you to add just one word, yet. So, I can't ride my bike becomes, I can't ride my bike yet. It sounds incredibly simple, but that one word completely changes the meaning of the sentence. Without it, I can't do it is a statement about who they are. I'm someone who can't do this, and this feels permanent. And for a little one who is already frustrated, that feeling alone can be enough to make them give up entirely. But when you add yet, it becomes a statement about where they are right now. Not who they are, but where they are. I can't do it yet just means I'm on my way to doing it. Hard things stop feeling like proof of what they can't do and start feeling like things that they just haven't figured out yet. And that mindset shift is what keeps them open to trying again. But yet on its own isn't enough. What you need to do next is help them work through what went wrong, and how you do that depends on how old your child is. If your child is 3 or under, they're still learning how to do the basics like get dressed, brush their teeth, or share with a sibling. And because of that, they don't yet have that ability to step back and think through what went wrong. So in these situations, you need to become their guide. So you just get down to their eye level and break the task into smaller steps and then work through it together. So for example, let's say your 2-year-old is trying to put on their pants and getting more and more frustrated. Instead of just pulling them up, you would guide them through it. So you might say, find the tag, that goes at the back. Now put one leg in this hole, then the other leg in this hole, and then pull them up. Basically, you're teaching them the skill, but you're not doing it for them. And the more times they go through those steps, the more capable they become until eventually they don't need you to guide them at all. Now, if your child is around 4 years old and they're speaking in full sentences, you shift to more of a coaching role. Instead of walking them through the steps, you help them think it through themselves. So for example, if your 4-year-old keeps wobbling and falling off their bike, instead of telling them exactly what to do, you would ask them, what do you think keeps happening? And then you would wait and let them think. Now, a lot of the time, they'll have more of an answer than you expect, but if they don't, you just want to give them additional prompts. So you might say, is it when you start to pedal or when you try to balance that you get unstable? And then you could follow up with, what do you think you can try differently this time? Basically, you're not giving them the answer, you're helping them find it themselves. And that process of thinking back through what went wrong and coming up with their own solution, that's exactly what builds that kind of problem-solving ability that shows up as intelligence over time. Now, when your little one finally masters riding that bike or pulls their pants up, resist the urge to say, you're so clever or you're so smart. Instead, you want to point to what actually got them there. Like, you kept trying even when it was really hard, or I watched how you try a different way when that first one wasn't working. This matters more than it might seem, because a child who is told that they're so clever starts to protect that label and they avoid hard things because failing would mean they're not clever anymore. But a child who is praised for their effort learns that trying hard is what gets results. So they try hard again the next time. And it's that willingness to stay in hard things, to keep going when things get difficult, that builds genuine intelligence over time. Now, you can do everything we've just talked about perfectly with your child and still be accidentally undermining all of it. Not through anything that you do with them, but through what they watch you do when things go wrong for you. And I'll show you exactly what I mean in just a second. But first, as I've mentioned, the words you use with your child in these moments matter just as much as the approach. So to help you, I put together a free guide called the 8 Parenting Phrases to Rethink, and it covers phrases most of us use on autopilot, things like calm down and you're okay, and what to say instead. And you can grab that by clicking the link in the description. Okay, now back to the next piece. Your child is watching you all the time, not just in the moments that you're focused on them, but in those moments where you make a mistake, like you spill something or you take the wrong turn or you lose your patience. And what they're watching is a live example of how a person handles things going wrong. So instead of hiding those moments or brushing past them, use them. When something goes wrong, just pause and say out loud what happened, why it happened, and what you're going to do differently the next time. So, for example, last night I burnt dinner, and instead of just serving it up and smothering it with tomato sauce, hoping that my kids wouldn't notice, which is exactly what my mum would have done, I said out loud, I burnt dinner. I was on the phone and I wasn't paying attention. Tomorrow night, I'm putting my phone in the basket before I even turn the stove on. I labelled what happened, which was I burnt dinner, why it happened, I was distracted, and what I'm going to do differently. The phone is going to go away before I start cooking. That's the Hanse process in action. It just takes 30 seconds, but when you model it that way, you're showing your child exactly how a capable person approaches a problem, works through it, and comes out the other side with a plan. And you're teaching them that mistakes aren't something to hide or feel bad about. There's something to learn from. And a child who grows up watching that and then practices it themselves in those everyday struggles, they don't just become more resilient, they become genuinely more intelligent. But here's the thing, even with all of this in place, there will still be moments where your little one's frustration tips into a full tantrum or a meltdown when they can't do something. And when that happens, most of us fall back on the same instinct, which is to reason with them, explaining why they shouldn't be upset or to try and talk them out of it. But that's actually the one thing that makes it worse. So if you're finding that the meltdowns are still a lot to handle, or you're just stuck in the same battle day after day with the ignoring, the pushing back, or the challenges just to get out the door in the morning, I've got a video that can help. In this one, I cover 9 practical rules that reduce challenging behaviors and power struggles and get you through the meltdowns without making them worse. So make sure you watch that one next.